And I'd like to welcome you all to our travel edition lunch club, where Lou will be taking us on a trip to Antarctica. And again, we'll be doing trivia at the end. Lou, the floor is yours. Thanks so much, as always, for coming on.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Well, I'm so excited to take you all on this trip today. We're going to have a blast together. Uh, and let me share my screen as I always do, and we'll get this show on the road here. So just a moment. And while I'm doing that, has anybody here ever been to Antarctica? And I should say, today I went with my daughter to visit her, to have lunch with her. So I'm sitting in a Panera in Olney, Maryland. Let me know if the internet here is okay. I can move if I need to.
Oh, no, well, your video and sound is perfect right now, so that's really good.
All right, Alex, thanks for sharing that. All right, well, let's get the show on the road. So we're going to start where we always start, and that's at the Department of Aging and Community Living, downtown Washington, D.C. And we're going to stroll over to Union Station. Now, this is a really good question. If you're going to go to Antarctica, what direction do you travel? We're going to
I think
first,
north.
Well, Antarctica,
So
here's a little bit of trivia. Antarctica wasn't even named until recently, until like 1900 and something. I mean, a little over 100 years. Even the name is recent. And I was shocked when I did the research how people just theorized that this continent existed. They didn't even know it was there for sure until fairly recently. So let's see if we can find. Sorry. Well, we're going to go on Dulles Airport as we always do. And let me just zoom out. Okay, well, that's Dulles Airport. So that's not where I wanted to go. And let's take off in our plane, leaving out of Dulles. We're going to take off. Well, look at all those roads it's mapping. And we're going to head south. So Antarctica is south. It's the opposite pole. It's the very bottom of the world. And so for years, people used to theorize that this continent existed, but nobody knew for sure. So we're going to fly over all of South America. We're going to fly over South America. And then typically what you do is you stop in like Buenos Aires or one of these cities down here, and then you catch a bus or a train all the way to the very tip, all the way to the tip of South America. And you get on one of these islands and they have a port down here. Let's see if this is it right here. I'm going to click on this little dot. This might be the port. Okay, well, that's what the world looks like before you go there. So we haven't even left for Antarctica yet. We're at the bottom of South America. And it's pretty beautiful down there. And we're going to take a boat. And that's how you get to Antarctica. There's airports for the military, there's airstrips, but for us tourists, we got to get there by boat. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the history of Antarctica. So let me get that queued up here. Just a moment.
I think I read, Lou, Antarctica, it's just a continent. There's like no countries in Antarctica, which is so interesting. I'm sure the video will talk about that. It's one of the, most unique continents in the world.
Sorry, guys, I'm having some problems with my laptop. My buttons aren't working right. Let me just reshare this. Just a moment. Okay, I'll share the sound. Okay, Alex, I'm sorry, you were saying something. What was it you were
Yes,
saying?
I was just saying Antarctica is very unique. Like the fact that it's just a continent, there are really no countries in Antarctica, per se. But I'm sure the videos will talk about that more.
You're right, and it's a really a fascinating place. So let me share this. We got a lot of videos to watch today, folks. So here we go.
Philosophers thought the Earth must be balanced. There's all this land near the top of the Earth, so there must be land at the bottom to balance it out. People started including this unknown continent in maps and called it Terra Australis Nondum Cognita, or just Terra Australis for short. In 1520, some Portuguese guy sails past South America and discovers new land. It's that southern continent everyone's looking for. I found Terra Australis. Spoiler alert! He was wrong. It's actually just Tierra del Fuego. Some British guy sails to the edge of South America where he finds a funny-looking bird that can't fly. Let's call it a penguin because it looks like a Penguinus empanus. Some Dutch guy sails south and discovers the real Terra Australis. Spoiler alert! He was wrong. It's actually just Staten Island. Then some British guy gets knocked off course by a storm and discovers the real Terra Australis. Spoiler alert! He was wrong. It's actually just South Georgia. Technology update, we found the cure for scurvy, so now half your crew won't die every time. And we invented a really accurate clock so you can finally calculate your longitude properly. Now you can do super long sea voyages. Britain is tired of all the fake Terra Australis claims and they want someone to find out if this place is real or not once and for all. So they call in Captain Cook, a legendary navigator who sails around the real Terra Australis in a circle without seeing it because of the fog. Then he rediscovers a bunch of islands and claims them for Britain. When he gets home, he tells everyone, Terra Australis is fake news. Even if it does exist, it's way further to the south than anyone thinks it is, and it's a cold, desolate wasteland that no human would ever want to live in. Also, there's a lot of seals. Did someone say seals? Seals equals fur, fur equals clothes, clothes equals money, so you know what that means. It's time to go seal hunting. Everyone starts sailing into the Falkland Islands to find seals. Wait, says some guy. If we keep killing the seals like this, they'll all go extinct. We should set limits so we don't destroy this precious ecosystem. And then they ignored him and killed all the seals. Hey everyone, there's more seals on South Georgia. Did someone say seals? Hey, are you gonna take that one? It's the 1800s now and seal hunting starts declining because the seals are almost extinct. And the British have to leave to fight Napoleon. And the Americans have to leave to fight the British. William Smith is sailing around Chile and heads further south to escape some bad weather. He accidentally discovers the real, for real this time, Terra Australis. Spoiler alert! He was wrong. It's just the South Shetland Islands. He was pretty close though. But more importantly, he finds a ton of seals. Did someone say seals? Hey, since the Terra Australis you guys are looking for probably doesn't exist, can we rename New Holland to Terra Australis instead, since it sounds cooler? We can just call it Australia for short. Now we need a new name for the hidden continent that definitely exists. Let's just call it Antarctica for now, since it's on the opposite side of the Arctic. I'm sure we'll come up with a more creative name later. Tsar Alexander I thinks that Russia doesn't own enough cold, desolate wastelands, so he sends Bellinghausen south to find and claim the real Antarctica. He discovers some new land, but by this point, everyone was kind of tired of fake claims of finding Antarctica. New land, sir? Do you think this could be Terra Australis? I mean, Antarctica? It's probably just another useless island. Honestly, I don't think this Antarctic continent exists. Spoiler alert! He was wrong. It really was Antarctica. Some American guy is looking for more seals and accidentally becomes the first person to stand on Antarctica. Then he leaves because there's no seals. Science alert. We think we've found out the magnetic pole locations. Can someone go in person to confirm? America, France, and Britain all go racing to find the magnetic South Pole and they all fail but discover more Antarctica. Hey, remember when we killed all the seals and got rich? Yeah, good times. Well, I just realized there's a ton of whales here. Did someone say whales? Hold up, just so we're clear, the Falkland Islands, South Georgia, and this whole chunk of Antarctica belongs to the British. So you're going to pay us taxes on each whale you catch in our territory. Okay. If people are going to start living here, then we need to build some stuff. So they build a cinema, football field, church, jail, and cemetery. Now that's what I call civilization. It's time for the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Some Belgian guy sails to Antarctica and gets his ship stuck in ice for a whole year. His crew becomes the first to spend winter in Antarctica. It's freezing cold, and the sun doesn't rise, and they all go insane. But eventually they get out of the ice and go home. Hey, wouldn't it be awesome if someone actually walked across the entire Antarctic continent? Says some British guy who then gets his ship destroyed by ice and is stranded with his men. Oops. No worries, I'll just sail 800 miles in a tiny boat across one of the roughest seas in the world in the freezing cold while starving and dehydrated. Then hike across some treacherous frozen mountains until I get to civilization. Then find someone with a boat to come pick everyone up. Trust me, bro, says Ernest Shackleton, somehow rescuing his entire crew. Who wants to be first to the South Pole? Me, says Britain and Norway at the same time. I'll race you. Alright, sir, what's our plan to beat the British? We're going to get 100 sled dogs, pack light, and go as fast as possible. Whenever a dog dies, we'll eat it. Sounds good. Alright, what's our plan to beat the Norwegians? We're going to use ponies. You know we're in Antarctica, right? Shouldn't we be using dogs? Using sled dogs is inhumane. Besides, we'll look cooler in the pigs if we use ponies. And they taste better. Okay. So the British make it to the South Pole 1 month after the Norwegians. Then they all die on the way back and become more famous than the guys who actually won. Technology update. Now we can process whales entirely at sea, which means we can evade the British taxes and catch more whales than ever before. Did someone say tax evasion? Wait, stop, says the League of Nations. Please don't hurt the whales. They're precious animals and you'll make them go extinct just like the seals. We need to preserve the ecosystem. And the whale hunters said,
how about we do anyway?
Technology update, we can fly now. So people start flying over Antarctica and dropping pieces of paper to claim land. Seems legit. The United States is feeling jealous that everyone else has land claims in Antarctica. I don't think your land claims are valid unless you have a permanent settlement there, says the United States before trying to establish a permanent settlement there and failing. It's time for World War II. Chile and Argentina are neutral at the start of World War II and think this would be a great time to go reclaim all of their rightful territory in Antarctica that's currently claimed by Britain. Argentina sails down to Antarctica and starts painting their flag on things. Then the British sail down and paint their flag over Argentina's flag. Then Argentina sails down again and paints their flag over the British flag. Then the British sail down again and paint their flag over Argentina's flag and start building permanent bases in Antarctica. Hey, says America, flying over Antarctica and dropping papers to claim land that was already claimed by Britain, Argentina, and Chile. Get off of our territory, says Britain. You are more than welcome to stay in our territory, says Chile. Argentina sends a navy fleet to Antarctica and builds more bases. Chile builds more bases and the Chilean president becomes the first head of state to visit Antarctica. Look, agree not to send any warships in this area? Sure, they all say, continuing to send warships. Then the British build a base next to an Argentinian base. The Argentinians fire their guns in the air and tell the British to get lost. The British bring in some soldiers and say, how about you get lost? Look how far you came from home. Antarctica's my backyard. Been living here for 50 years. You colonizers can't make me scared. The sun already set on your dying empire. So go back to your palace, sip some tea by the fire. Britannia rules the waves, Britannia rules the ice. Who discovered this place? Oh yeah, it was us. If you have a problem, then let's have a fight. We'll see how long you last against our military might. Guys, are we really going to die over this frozen wasteland? Let's settle things the old-fashioned way, with a game of football. Hey, can you politicians stop arguing over who owns Antarctica for a year so we can go do some science? Did someone say science? 67 countries participate in the International Geophysical Year, and now 12 countries have their own bases in Antarctica, and they all work together and do a bunch of science. You know, doing science together is a lot more fun than fighting wars. Yeah. How about we all agree that no one owns Antarctica and we make it an international science hub? I'll happily lend out my land for science, but it's still mine. Yeah. I'm not giving up my land claims. Okay, how about this? No one has to renounce their land claims, and no one has to recognize anyone else's land claims, and no one can make any new claims while this treaty is enforced. You can all believe whatever you want about who owns Antarctica, but all of Antarctica will be completely peaceful and reserved for international scientific research until our next meeting. Sounds good. Everyone agrees and builds even more bases to do even more science. We already hunted seals and whales to near extinction. What else can we hunt? Krill. Did someone say krill? Actually, we've had enough of you guys. How about we don't make animals go extinct, say the Antarctic Treaty countries, creating new rules to preserve wildlife? In 1978, Argentina ships a pregnant woman to Antarctica and her son Emilio becomes the first baby born in Antarctica. How cute. And then Argentina decides to start a war. Hey, you know these islands are actually ours, right? Says Argentina, showing up to the Falkland Islands with guns. Then why don't you come take them from me? Says Britain, showing up with guns. Wait, the Antarctic Treaty says we're not supposed to fight wars in Antarctica. Yeah, but that only applies to everything below 60 degrees south. Oh yeah, good point. Carry on then. Wait a second, our ozone measuring device must be broken unless there is a literal hole in the sky, says some Antarctic scientist discovering a literal hole in the sky. Can we mine Antarctica for oil? Nope, but you can ask again in 50 years. Okay, see you in 2048. Hey, is it just me or is all the ice melting?
All right. Any thoughts about the video so far? Any thoughts? Can you hear me?
Yes, Lou, thank you so much for sharing that video. I shared some thoughts in the chat today, but I learned a lot.
Yeah, it really is a pretty interesting place. But let's learn a little bit about the 10 most interesting places. I got to go fast because we have a lot of material to cover.
From the loneliest post office in the world to the mysterious Blood Falls, and from a potable water reserve that contains 70% of the world's fresh water to a passage full of legends and sunken ships, these are the 10 most exciting places to visit in Antarctica. We start our list with number 1. Most southern post office. A post office should be close to every major highway and have easy access to the rest of the world. Well, Antarctica has only one post office, and it's the loneliest. Right on the west side of the 324,000 square mile Antarctic Peninsula lies the Penguin Post Office. In the 1950s, being a postmaster was a crucial job for a base leader serving the UK. Those who received mail letters received more than just letters. They received a lifeline to the rest of the world. Maybe you'll fall in love with the place and stay for a while, since that historic post office is now hiring for the 2022 to 2023 season. This isolated post office is still active to this day. Seasonal staff send 70,000 postcards to more than 100 countries. However, those postcards take weeks to arrive from the most remote red letterbox at Bransfield House. Number 2. Ice Cube Research Station. The Ice Cube Research Station is the only cubic kilometer neutrino constructed to date. The research station was completed in 2010 within 6 years and extends 4,600 feet deep under the Antarctic ice. A neutrino is a particle with little mass that travels through space at the speed of light. They are the perfect travelers that could reveal many mysteries of our universe. The telescope, dubbed the Ice Cube, operates thanks to the collaboration of 80 scientists and engineers. In 2017, it detected its first neutrino from the Orion constellation. The engineers alerted its coordinates to all the telescopes in the world, tracing the path back to a black hole 1 billion light-years away. Number 3. Blood Falls. There are many mysteries in Antarctica, but in Blood Falls, there are 2. The first is a century-long question about its color. It turns out the water underneath the falls is 2 million years old, and it pours human blood because it's full of iron. The second mystery of Blood Falls is that there are many types of microorganisms in its water with zero oxygen. This zero oxygen environment hosts 17 different microorganisms, all trapped beneath the red ice. How long have these microorganisms been there? 2 million years. That's 10 times earlier than when Homo sapiens began to evolve about 200,000 years ago. These ancient microorganisms live without oxygen or sunlight, the kind of life that only exists out there in space on frozen moons. Imagine being just a few feet away from an organism that could survive deep in outer space. Number 4. Colossal penguin colonies. Antarctica is 5.5 million square miles, and colossal penguin colonies occupy the vast land. 12 million penguins in total, some of which are a size you can't appreciate in the video. Emperor penguins are the largest, reaching 4 feet in height and weighing 100 pounds. Despite their size, they are designed to be faster than Olympic swimmers. Underwater, they can reach speeds up to 10 miles per hour, and our friend Emperor can reach depths of 1,850 feet. More than most nuclear submarines, which only go an average of 1,000 feet. In such a harsh environment, they even take turns to warm themselves. To escape the cold wind and conserve warmth, penguins huddle together. Once one of them warms up in the center of the group, the warmed penguin will give that space to another colder peer and move to the outer perimeter of the group. Comment what your favorite penguin fact is. Number 5. Ross Sea or the ice shelf. This ice shelf could determine the future of humankind, since it's the largest in the world. It is approximately the same size as France and something is underway that should worry us all. It's melting at an alarming rate, 10 times the average. In the last 40 years, Antarctic melted ice has increased sea levels by half an inch. If this trend continues, the sea level by 2050 will rise nearly 2 feet, engulfing coastal cities worldwide. 70% of Earth's freshwater is on Antarctica's ice shelf. Vast quantities of water have been found under the Antarctic ice sheet. The depths can range from 725 feet to half of a mile. That means you could fit 2 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. Navigating those waters and seeing incredible views of vertical ice fronts 2,450 feet thick and 160 feet high is an experience you will never forget. Number 6. Deception Island. This landmark in the Atlantic has a very curious history. Deception Island was discovered by Nathaniel Palmer of Connecticut in 1820, and from the outward perspective, it looked like any other island, but the narrow entrance only led to the discovery that the island was a flooded caldera with a horseshoe formation with barren volcanic slopes, steaming beaches, and layered glaciers. What seemed normal upon arrival actually looked like a whole new planet. This island is an active volcano formed by a massive volcanic eruption more than 10,000 years ago. Despite sudden climate changes, it has been a haven for explorers coming into the Southern Ocean. Those warm beaches aren't alone. A colony of over 100,000 penguins nest on this active volcano. Unfortunately, no research center can survive in these extreme conditions, with a volcano that had its last eruption in 1970. From 1965 until 1970, significant explosions destroyed research centers that had settled on this out-of-this-world island. Number 7. Antarctic Peninsula. Known as Tierra de O'Higgins in Chile and Tierra de San Martin in Argentina, there are rivalries here straight out of the history books. The Antarctic Peninsula is that perfect isolated place on Earth where nations can conduct their most secret investigations and tests without prying media outlets. This gigantic remote location is critical for international affairs and sovereignty, which explains why 3 countries wanted to claim it. Argentina, Chile, and the UK all maintain territorial claims in the Antarctic Peninsula. This peninsula is on the northernmost part of mainland Antarctica, 80 miles between the Weddell Sea and Eckland Islands. Beneath that thick ice sheet, there are islands separated by deep channels. Nobody will want to lose their camera there, so beware while you walk along this icy path. Number 8. Drake Passage. Violent currents and powerful storms that could capsize a modern boat of any size plague the Drake Passage, a 48-hour ride by boat to go through those fierce currents between the southern tip of South America and the northern end of the West Antarctic Peninsula is a daring voyage. It is named after Sir Francis Drake, when one of his ships discovered the connection between the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. Many modern boats change their course, often looking for smooth sea conditions under its waters. While navigating the roughest sea in the world, 20,000 sailors have lost their lives in this extreme voyage. Under its surface, there are more than 800 shipwrecks. Many years have passed and technology has evolved to make the passage's conditions a little more predictable. I'm curious to know, would you go navigate the Drake Passage as many sailors did back in the day? Number 9. The Falkland Islands. The Falklands' main attraction is its wildlife. 500 different species of birds flying its skies, and on the coast there are 14 other species of marine mammals, such as killer whales, elephant seals, and sea lions, to name a few. There are also endemic species of birds, 219 of them in fact. Of all the plants that have been recorded, 171 are native to the islands, and 13 are endemic and do not occur naturally anywhere else in the world. Every visit is just another chance to encounter an animal you've never seen before. Besides seeing things that are rare in nature, many activities are waiting for you: climbing, hiking, kayaking, and mountain biking. These islands with such incredible fauna rely heavily on the coasts, since fisheries account for over 50% of the Falklands' GDP. These islands are an internally self-governing overseas territory of the United Kingdom, following their war with Argentina that started in 1982, leaving 255 British and 649 Argentines dead in the 74-day conflict. Indeed, a pair of islands full of fauna, flora, and history. Number 10. Port Lockroy. Port Lockroy is full of captivating history. 70 years ago, this port was part of a secret British mission known as Operation Tabarin to establish a permanent presence in Antarctica and assert territorial claims. This involved building the first overwintering bases in Antarctica and formed the foundations of Britain's continued involvement in Antarctica. Station A was converted into a fascinating museum. Humans and penguins live in harmony in this port, since half of the island is open to tourists, while the other half is home to 3,000 Gentoo penguins. It's well preserved, and you can time travel with its signature lonely post office, the Penguin Post Office, a gift shop, and numerous Gentoo penguins, an endangered species you could immortalize in an unforgettable selfie if you're lucky. Is there another secret we missed on Antarctica? Tell us in the comments. Also, if you would like to know more about awesome places to travel to, watch the 2 videos that are on your screen.
All right, well, that was great. Anything that stood out to you folks as I queue up the next video?
How did they build the science lab? I think the steps.
Yeah, I guess they had to land the ship and then probably put it on little small boats and then bring it to shore, and probably a whole lot of work went into it, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Well, you know, that post office stood out to me, the loneliest post office. I mean, I don't think it's very many people there, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Work
sort
by
of,
yourself.
it's neat that the whole world cooperated, isn't it? To
Yeah.
basically say nobody really owns this place, and that's sort of cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Falkland Islands controversy with Reagan sent down troops to help the British.
You remember this? I still remember the Exocet French missile sunk the General Belgrado ship. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
No.
Yeah, the General Belgrado was the pride of the Argentine Navy, and an Exocet missile sunk it.
Oh, okay.
Those were big headlines in '82.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember that.
Does anybody remember who the Prime Minister of Britain was?
It was the lady.
Thatcher? Was it Margaret Thatcher?
It was Margaret Thatcher.
It was indeed Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher. Because Reagan worked with her to get that straight.
She was known as the Iron Lady.
The Iron Lady, yes.
All right, good trivia. All right, guys. Well, no story of Antarctica is complete without talking about. I want to play this video because it's so remarkable. This one of the greatest adventure stories of all time was by a guy named Shackleton. Some of you might know him.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't, let me play this video.
Ernest Shackleton was an Irish explorer. He's also the ultimate model for crisis management, which he became when his 1914 expedition met with what can only be described as complete and utter disaster. Their trip to the Antarctic showed the sheer magnitude of Shackleton's inspirational journey and has made him a pop culture icon of bravery and leadership. Today, we're going to take a look at what happened when explorer Ernest Shackleton was stranded in the Antarctic for years. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what other badass explorers you would like to hear about. Okay, bundle up, because we are headed south. Way south. Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott had already reached the South Pole in 1914. So if Ernest Shackleton was going to leave his mark, he'd have to do something else. Eventually, he decided to attempt the first continental crossing of Antarctica. The trip was so lengthy, Shackleton would need 2 teams to complete it. One would leave from South America, the other would leave from Tasmania and land on the opposite side of the continent, along the Ross Sea. Since the South American party wouldn't be able to carry enough supplies to make it completely across, The Tasmania party would have to cross nearly a third of the whole continent just to set up the necessary supply depot. It wasn't a terrible plan in theory, but the whole thing was rendered moot by Shackleton's failure to even reach Antarctica. Due to unusually cold temperatures, his ship became trapped in the ice. He was less than 100 miles from land, but it didn't matter. He would have to wait until the ice melted before he could reach the continent, which could take months. As if being stuck wasn't bad enough, Shackleton also had to prepare for the possibility that the pressure being exerted by the ice would crush his ship. He removed weight from the vessel, hoping that it would rise in the event the ice pushed together. If that didn't work, the ship would simply be crushed. The underwater sea currents exerted incredible forces, pulling both the ice and Shackleton's ship miles from shore. The frequent blizzards and freezing winds didn't help either. Shackleton and his crew could only wait, and wait they did, for 6 long, cold months. By the end of October, the ship had sustained significant damage to its stern. Within a few days, it was obvious the Endurance wasn't going to make it. On October 27th, Shackleton finally gave the order to abandon ship. With the loss of the Endurance, any hope of completing the original mission went with it. Shackleton's sole focus became getting his men back to civilization, and it wasn't going to be easy. The ship had drifted 1,186 miles in 281 days. That put the team about 350 miles from remote Paulet Island, the nearest outpost that could provide shelter and supplies. The group salvaged as much as possible before the ship sank, but with their supplies decreasing, they were forced to supplement their diets by eating seals and even penguins. They spent almost a month salvaging before the ship finally disappeared beneath the icy water. Once it was gone, they headed out. Shackleton's plan was to march across the ice to the northern tip of Antarctica, and if the ice broke apart, they would take to the lifeboats they salvaged from the Endurance. Once the ship sank, the main mission was over. And once that main mission was over, the sled dogs' days were numbered. Not only were they potential food, but the dogs actually consumed more meat than the men did, which made them a liability. On October 20th, 1915, Shackleton's second-in-command, Frank Wild, shot 5 of the dogs and the expedition's cat. By January of 1916, 30 dogs had been culled. And on March 30th, the last of the dogs were consumed. At that point, the men were so hungry and desperate that they didn't care what they were eating. Frank Wild would later comment, "I have known many men who I would rather have shot than these dogs." Shackleton and his team started by heading north across the ice floes, but his exact route was limited by ice and weather conditions. It wouldn't be until April that there would be breaks in the ice significant enough to allow the men to navigate their lifeboats in the open water. Though they were initially hoping to use the boats to reach Deception Island, the frequent exposure to the freezing seawater exhausted the men. So instead, on April 15th, they put ashore on a 7-mile-long beach of Elephant Island, a small island off the northernmost peninsula of Antarctica. It was the first time Shackleton and his men had stood on land in 497 days. It was also the safest they had been in months. Camping on dry land was exponentially safer than camping on an ice floe that could break apart at literally any moment. After assessing the situation, Shackleton eventually concluded that the only way to save his men would be to reach South Georgia Island and return with help. Unfortunately, the island was over 900 miles away, across some of the most turbulent oceans on the face of the earth, and all Shackleton had was a 20-foot-long lifeboat. As if that wasn't hard enough, finding the tiny outpost that measured just 100 miles long and 20 miles wide would require exacting navigation, using only a chronometer and a sextant. The lifeboat was fitted with a mast and loaded up with a month's worth of supplies. Why just a month? Well, Shackleton reasoned that by then he should have succeeded, or died. Along with 5 other men, he set sail on April 24th. Frank Wild was left in command of the 22 men who stayed behind. If Shackleton didn't return by the following spring, they would try to reach an uninhabited whaling outpost on Deception Island. Shackleton's ship traveled about 60 miles a day, and the sailors were quickly drenched by the rough seas. They would spend the next few weeks wet and frostbitten, their skin raw and continuously irritated by the seawater. On the 5th day, they were hit by a powerful gale that threatened to capsize the ship and brought cold temperatures that froze the water on the boat in heavy layers. This ice needed to be constantly chipped off, and any excess weight, including the frozen sleeping bags and spare oars, had to be tossed overboard to maintain speed. The sun came out on the 7th day, by which point they had traversed about 350 miles. The next few days were calm, but day 11 brought another gale that almost sank them. Finally, just 14 days after leaving Elephant Island, the crew spotted South Georgia Island. You'd think it'd be celebration time, but the team couldn't find a suitable area to land, so they had to spend yet another night enduring hurricane-force conditions on their tiny boat. The next day, they made landfall at King Haakon Bay, but the ordeal wasn't over. King Haakon Bay sits on the unsettled southern side of the island. With their rudder broken and their ship leaking, the team didn't think they could reach the other side of the island in a boat. Instead, they would have to cross on foot. This meant an unprecedented journey that would require traversing rocks, ice, and glaciers that reached 5,000 feet in elevation, all in deep snow. But they had no choice. 3 of the men were too weak to make the trip, so Shackleton took 2 others with him and left the others at the bay. They took 3 days' worth of food, attached screws to the bottoms of their worn boots for traction, and left their sleeping bags behind. Their destination was the whaling station at Stromness. The only catch was Shackleton hadn't been there in 2 years, and he wasn't even completely sure the station was still populated. Nevertheless, the trio set out on May 19th at 2 a.m., under the light of a full moon. They spent most of their first day getting lost among the glaciers and had to retrace their steps. Finally, they decided to escape the high altitude by gliding down the steep incline, roped together. It worked, but they still had to overcome another 2,000-foot glacier and a 25-foot waterfall before reaching the outskirts of Stromness. After their months-long ordeal, the 3 men weren't looking so hot. Their clothes were filthy, tattered, and all 3 had long hair and beards. When they ran into 2 children on their way to the station, they got a predictably amusing response. Shackleton asked the children for the station manager by name, at which point the kids' eyes went wide with fear, and they turned and ran in the opposite direction. When Shackleton did finally track down the station master, the man had no idea who he was, despite the fact they had met before. The 3 men Shackleton left behind at King Haakon Bay were quickly retrieved by a whaling ship from Stromness. But rescuing the other 22 men that stayed behind on Elephant Island would be much more difficult. With the First World War raging, the British government didn't have much in the way of resources to spare. Shackleton tried reaching Elephant Island in a whaling ship, but he had to turn back when he encountered a barrier of solid ice. He would try and fail 3 more times. Finally, the Chilean government stepped in and provided a small tugboat called the Yelcho. It set off on August 20th, and 5 days later, just as the 22 men on Elephant Island were preparing for a lunch of penguin breast and stewed seal bones, the Yelcho arrived. The men could see the Yelcho lower a smaller boat into the water. As it drew near, it became clear who was driving it: Ernest Shackleton. As he approached, he yelled, "All well?" Frank Wild called back to him, "All safe, all well." Within an hour, all 22 men were headed back safely to Punta Arenas, Chile. Because of the war, Shackleton's return to Britain didn't receive much attention. Shortly after he got back, he volunteered for the army and was eventually involved in efforts in both Norway and Russia. Once the war was over, Shackleton borrowed some money from a college classmate to mount yet another expedition to Antarctica. This time, he intended to circumnavigate the continent. However, Shackleton's health was deteriorating in the years leading up to this expedition, and on January 4th, 1922, shortly after arriving on South Georgia Island, he suffered a fatal heart attack. His wife requested that he be buried in a small cemetery on that island, where he rests to this day. So what do you think? Could you survive a Shackleton expedition? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird...
All right, folks. So what did you think? No story about Antarctica is complete without the story of Shackleton. Probably, for those of you who know about this story, I think that's probably the greatest, successful adventure story of all time. Any thoughts?
And so many obstacles. I mean, oh my God, what they had to go through. They were cold. They ate the dogs. That was that was amazing that all he had to go through and still managed to get his men.
The
Oh.
situation was so dire, I stopped listening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I walked away.
Yeah, that was
So
really.
I came back in the end to when he had the heart attack and was buried by his wife. Well, she didn't bury him, but she agreed to where he should be buried. So I came back in the room then, but I missed all the other. It was too gruesome for me.
It was gruesome. And all he went through the first expedition, he wanted to go back again.
Yeah, he wanted to go back again.
Yeah,
What?
isn't that the truth? And I don't think anybody died, right? I mean, everybody lived through
Everybody
that.
survived.
That's
Hmm.
what a miracle that was.
That's
Yeah.
really America. God's hand on that.
Hmm.
Amen. That is so true. All right, well, I'm going to fire up a real quick video while I change locations for this trivia. So let me fire this up. This is an interesting video about why nobody is allowed to just explore around Antarctica anymore. So let's fire it up. Hold on.
The world's coldest continent is also one of the most mysterious places on Earth. It's as unique as it is secretive, and unlike most destinations, you can't just hop off a commercial flight. Unless you're an elite scientist or an emperor penguin, exploring the Antarctic is forbidden. Even if you could, good luck overcoming frostbite-inducing temperatures of -130 degrees Fahrenheit or -90 degrees Celsius. But why is it restricted? And where do these rules come from? Grab your mittens and let's find out. Before the mid-1900s, we knew almost nothing about Antarctica. Then, an American Navy explorer by the name of Admiral Richard Byrd Jr. changed everything. Oh, and before you go asking Santa for presents, the Antarctic is actually at the South Pole. Antarctica equals south, Arctic equals north. Comprende? Anyway, what was Byrd's deal? Aside from enormous expanses of ice, endemic wildlife, and wintry conditions he'd never before seen, what else exactly did he find? While it's still shrouded in mystery, many think that Byrd came across an underground civilization called Agartha. Here, check it out. In 1957 and 58, a bunch of countries came together and were like, you know what, we love what this new research is showing and we need to protect Antarctica. So, the Antarctica Treaty was created. What does that mean exactly? Well, it means that smarty-pants scientists in lab coats can venture into the icy abyss for research purposes. For the rest of us, there are exceptions, of course. We can, for example, head to the Antarctic waters on a cruise ship. Can we set foot on the land as well? Technically, yes. There are a few landing spots along the peninsula, but compared to the entire continent's mass, it isn't even a sliver. The treaty also stated that no single nation could own Antarctica. It's divided up into partial ownership for these 7 countries. Here, check it out. So we know we're not allowed to wander around the frostbitten land of Antarctica, but why exactly is that? First and foremost, it's for the protection of the environment. It makes sense, too. The world's southern tip is a place overflowing with biodiversity. There's endemic species, underground mountains, yeah, you heard that right, blood-red waterfalls, and even gold-spewing volcanoes. But as much as we do want to keep our beloved environment thriving, we've also been banned for our own safety. Temperatures can drop to a whopping -130 degrees Fahrenheit, that's -90 Celsius. For most of us, protecting the environment and ourselves is the whole story. However, for a select few, it's believed that there's some rather shady stuff going on behind that ice wall. As you can see, it's completely visible on Google Maps satellite view, so if something shady was going on, it must be rather well hidden. Perhaps this giant alien face-like structure could be a sign of the unknown? We won't delve too deep into other theories, but they do include a supposed hidden fortress used in World War II, claims that an ancient civilization once lived down there, and of course the idea that it's the gateway to the end of the world because the world is flat. Yeah, right. Okay, so what would actually happen if we did try to visit Antarctica? If you break the rules, get ready to deal with fines of up to 10,000 US dollars, and even a year behind bars for each rule that you break. There are a heap of rules to follow, but they mostly revolve around protecting native wildlife. But wait, since nobody technically governs the area, who's actually going to punish us? Well, it depends on where you're from. According to the Antarctic Treaty, anybody accused of a crime in Antarctica is subject to punishment by their own country. But what if you're just visiting as a tourist from a country that isn't part of the treaty? Well, in that case, usually the host nation of the ship or plane you arrived on takes the reins, and the captain or pilot of the ship could take full temporary control over you. Antarctica isn't only a restricted landmass, but also one of the largest forbidden airspaces on the planet. It's because of legislation that was introduced in the 80s under the Reagan administration. A law was created that stated no aircraft, regardless of where they are, is allowed to be more than 60 minutes from an airfield in case of an emergency. Since the infrastructure around the South Pole is next to none, we have to avoid it in the name of safety. Of course, that rule usually only affects commercial jets. Chartered jets can still come and go to bring staff to the research bases, which hovers around 3,000 in the summer and 400 in the winter. While it can become rather bleak and boring, there are still a few basic facilities on offer. At McMurdo Station, there's some coffee shops, a general store, a post office, and 2 solitary ATMs. Sadly, some who make it down there don't make it back. Over the years, many bodies have been discovered beneath the ice, and some are never discovered at all. In total, the number of fallen explorers is thought to be in the hundreds. That's all for why no one's allowed to explore the Antarctic.
All right, folks. Any thoughts about that before we jump into the trivia?
Wow.
Anybody eager to go to Antarctica now?
No, thanks.
No, thank you. Too much ice, too much slippery stuff. No.
All right. Yeah, I had a friend that actually went there, and he raved about it. But virtually his whole trip was on a boat, and they're just looking at the continent from the boat. All right. Well, let's get this show on the road. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Alex, can you go through your orientation real quickly?
Yep. Again, thank you so much, Lou. I learned so much about Antarctica today. Thank you so much. So at the end of our Travel Fridays, we always have a trivia where one of you will win an iPad accessory. You do that by answering the trivia questions that Lou provides. So if you want to answer one of Lou's questions, we'll go based on the order of who raised their hand. And again, we'll call on you, you provide your answer, and we'll see if it's right. So can everyone in Zoom please raise their hand to test out this feature? Again, you must raise your hand if you would like to answer one of Lou's trivia questions, okay? Again, we have 6 hands so far. Thank you so much. Again, everyone, you can hit more at the top right and then tap on raise hand, or if your toolbar's at the bottom, you can tap on reactions and then tap on raise hand. But again, if you answer a trivia question correctly, you're in the running for an iPad accessory prize, okay? And please raise your hand if you would like to answer. Thank you so much. You all can hit lower to lower your hand. Thank you so much. Again, don't forget to lower your hand once you've answered. And I really appreciate the participation. Lou, I look forward to learning more about Antarctica. And Google is your friend, everybody.
Well, thank you, Alex. By the way, it was one thing about Shackleton. It was interesting that he died of a heart attack just 5 years after that trip. I mean, you would have thought he had a heart attack during that trip. Interesting fact. Okay, here we go. Who discovered Antarctica and in what year? This was actually in the video. So break out your Google.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, that was really fast. You need both answers. Who discovered Antarctica and in what year? What do you say? You got to hit unmute in the middle, Mr. Thomas.
The year was 1820, and I believe that the man was a German in the Russian army, and his name was Gottlieb Hausland.
You know, I think you're right. It was 1820, and there's two guys, and one of them was a Russian, and I think the other one was that. So we'll give it to you.
Very
Look at
good.
that, Bellinghausen. Very good.
Very good.
Good-
Thank you.
Good
Very
job,
good.
Mr. Thomas. That was so fast.
All right, next one. Good job. That was a hard question. Who was the first person to reach the magnetic South Pole? Magnetic. There's two South Poles now. One's magnetic and one's geographic.
Again, Google is your friends. I think they may have mentioned it in the video.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay, again, you must provide the answer to see if you're right. So first up is Anne. What do you say? Anne, are you there?
1909, and the man's name was there was two of them, Edgeworth David and Douglas Mawson.
I think so. Let's take another one. Magnetic South Pole. I think that's true. Let's hold that for a second because I got to go to the next. I forgot what the answer was.
Okay, just keep that in mind. Again, we just need the name. Brenda, what do you say?
I have Douglas Mawson.
Any other guesses?
We'll take one more. Miss Valerie, what do you say? You got to hit unmute in the middle, Miss Valerie.
Mondenson.
All right, let's go. So who was the first one? I think they said Douglas Mawson. Who said that?
It was Anne.
Okay,
Shackleton.
but hold on. Crew aboard Earth Shackleton's Nimbus 1907, led by Edgeworth Davis. Is that right? Do I have that right? So I have 1907. Yeah, did anybody say?
I'm not sure. Is the answer David or Edgeworth David?
I think so. Let me this one, we might have to skip this question. Do you guys mind if we skip it? I might have it wrong. Or
I'll put the names of the three answerers. So Anne, Brenda, and Miss Valerie. I'll go ahead and put your name down for a prize.
okay, well, I have on January 19th, three men, Douglas Mawson, Edgeworth David, and Alistair McKay were on Sir Ernest Shackleton's Nimrod expedition. So it looks like Mawson or David. Who was the first one to say Mawson or David? Someone said Mawson.
I think that was Anne. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's what I said.
All right, Anne, let's give it to Anne.
Okay.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you so much, Lou. Appreciate it.
All right. Who was the first to reach the geographic South Pole now?
So not the magnetic, but the geographic, right?
Geographic South Pole. Yeah. Who was the first to reach the geographic South Pole?
And I think it was in the video as well.
This is the geographic now. Remember, the magnetic pole is a little different than the geographic pole.
Okay. Let's see, Ms. Valerie, once again, what do you say? Again, you have to hit unmute in the middle, so that way you can unmute yourself.
Mondenson.
I think you're right. Yep.
Yep, thank you. Good job, Ms. Valerie. Appreciate it. Good job. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Okay, here we go. Next question. What is the name of this man?
Again, don't forget to mute yourselves after you answer. Thank you so much. Who is that man? Okay, Mr. Thomas, we'll keep your hand up. We'll see if any other persons would like to answer. Who is that man? Okay, let's see, Miss Angela, what do you say? Miss Angela, you got to hit unmute in the middle.
Hi, is that Ernest Shackleton?
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, next one. Who is this man?
It was the other guy, right? It was the other guy. Okay. Okay, Brenda, what do you say?
Roll Almaston.
Very good. Very good. Y'all are getting good at this. Okay. Now we're getting towards your favorite part of the program, the lightning round. You just have to be the first to shout out the name. You don't have to raise your hand of these famous Antarctic residents. I need the exact name, not the general name, but the exact name of these famous Antarctic residents. Here we go.
Penguin.
Emperor penguin.
Right, Thomas got it. The
Okay, yeah,
emperor penguin.
Oh, the emperor.
Thomas.
Remember, I need the exact name. Good job, Mr. Tom.
Okay.
Next one.
Blue whale.
Ooh, good job. Who said that?
That was Brenda. Good job.
That's the largest animal to have ever existed, and it's still alive today. What a treat we
Oh,
have.
blue whale.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
And please unmute yourself if you'd like to answer.
Orca.
Orca.
Yeah, good job. Who said orca first?
Again, good job, Brenda. You're on point.
Okay, next one. This one's tough.
Oh, I don't know what that
Krill.
Right. Who said that?
Good job, Geraldine. Good job. Thank you so
Good
much.
job. Wow, that was a tough one.
Seal.
What kind of seal? That's the tough one.
Okay.
I took many types of seals live in Antarctica. I chose this one because its coloration is so unique and it's easy to identify because of its coloration.
Well, that.
We may have stumped him on this one, Lou.
Let's give it
Looks
another
like a blue
second.
seal.
What does it have on its belly? What are those?
Spots.
Spot. What other animal is famous for its spots?
That spotted.
Leopard.
Leopard seal, right? Good job.
seal.
Leopard seal.
That was Geraldine. Thank you so much again.
Very good. Very
Good
good.
job.
All right, that's it. Alex, take us home.
Okay, wonderful. Again, thank you all so much for participating in our trivia today. Again, we got a great bit of participation. I really like the lightning rounds. It's a lot of fun. And again, we're able to see who shouts it out first. So again, I really enjoyed that lightning round. So just putting in our winners for today. Give me one moment. But again, make sure you check out our Travel Friday on Fridays at 12. So that way you can come and visit a brand new country each and every time. So I'm going to share my screen. And today we had quite a bit of folks that answered a trivia question correctly. As Lou said, you all doing a great job. So we have Mr. Thomas, we have Anne, Miss Valerie, Angela, Miss Brenda, Mr. Thomas again, and Brenda and Geraldine killing that lightning round. So again, one of you all will win an iPad accessory prize. Let's see who wins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, let's go. All right.
Mr. Thomas,
Again,
congratulations.
thank you so much for coming on to our session today. You will win, and we will share with you your iPad accessory prize later on next week. We are shipping out all the prizes for the past few weeks that we've had next week, so you will also receive your prize as well. So it will be something a little bit different. So we'll let you know on Tuesday, okay?
Thank you very much.
And no
All
problem.
right.
Thomas,
Great
thank you.
job, everybody. Great job.
And
what's next week's topic, Alex? What's our next
okay.
visit?
Well, next week, well, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to learn, about several, hardships, that, we may be facing, as humans all together. So make sure you check out our daily email for our next week's country. But it's going to be somewhere in the Eurasian area. So Europe, Asia area. Okay.
All right.
Well, let's all say thank you so much to Lou for presenting Antarctica. I learned a lot today. I can't wait to share with my friends.
Yeah, I learned a lot today.
And,
I did too.
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Lou.
I
Thank
learned a lot
you.
Have a
too.
great
Thank
weekend,
you.
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye,
Have a
everybody.
great weekend.
Thank you.
You
Bye,
all at
everybody.
1:30. Have a good day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.